A to Z Sports, prime time on a Monday night. Hope your week got off to a fantastic start. Hope you're ready to get into a conversation about a Titans player, a former Titans player, who was popping off a little bit at the expense of the Tennessee Titans. Delanie Walker, over the weekend, made some statements about the Titans and their fan base that has seemed to inflame a lot of people. Tonight, we're going to get into, just how grounded in reality maybe Delanie Walker's comments are with the fire that he started over the weekend. We'll spend some time on whether he is right to believe that he belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And then we will end the show with a topic that came up today because for the first time in a couple of years, I decided to cook today. So we'll get into all of those things over the course of this evening. We're excited to have you as a part of the proceedings. Before we do that, I need you to share this show across all of the social platforms that you're hanging out with us on. If you are on Twitter, go ahead and retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That is how you can get the people going on the Twitterverse. I've just done it myself if you want to be so kind as to do it. If you're hanging out with us on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. It's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and you can get your Facebook friends going that way. Share now to public. That is how you get the people going on Facebook Live. If you're hanging out with us on Twitch or on YouTube, we invite you to subscribe to the A to Z Sports channels where you can get all of our live streaming content 6 days a week at the very minimum, 6 days a week, where you can hang out with us across all four of the social platforms. And throw us a like if you're on YouTube. That would make us very happy as well. And now that more of you are here, we can go ahead and begin the show officially and talk about this man, Delanie Walker, who has incited the rage of the Titans fan base. Welcome into A to Z Sports prime time on a Monday night from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud as always to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford, the name that you know, the brand that you can trust and have trusted since 1983. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage is where you go to sell your dream address without the stress. Gary Ashton will make sure that you have the intel necessary to sell your home for more and take advantage of this seller's market at GaryAshton.com. Of course, Brymak Mechanical, satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. They will put you in a position to succeed and make sure that you're in your comfort zone this summer. BRYMAK, Brymak.com. And finally, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. They are the best in the business, and they will have all manner of great promotions that I will tell you about later on in the show, having to do with the Olympics and all manner of other sports, using the promo code A2Z Sports in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So, Delanie Walker is very honest, even when it suits him ill, to be honest. So, over the weekend, and this kind of happened like in a bit of a news dump situation. I'm not sure what time and at what place Delanie Walker went on SiriusXM NFL radio, but he was on the radio and he was talking about his free agency, how he's played really about 8 games in the last 2 seasons and has struggled to return from injury. So Delanie Walker was asked about his legacy and asked about, why it is so important for him to get back involved with an NFL team. Now you'll hear from Delanie Walker on that radio show momentarily. But Keelan on YouTube says, Buck, to start off the show, you should toast a shot with us going forward. Well, I would do that, but I would run out of tequila very, very quickly if I was drinking a shot a night for every night that I do the primetime show. And secondarily, I have a hard enough time keeping my attention span focused. Now, if we had an alcohol sponsor on the primetime show and they were paying me to take a shot on air, then I would do it. But in the meantime, I got a lot of other stuff I got to do tonight. I'm getting a little sauced at 8 o'clock, heading late into my work evening. it would not bode well for how for the trajectory of this show. I think it would go up in flames quite quickly. But if there's a liquor sponsor out there that would like to get involved, we would welcome the tequila sponsor indeed. Roselle Russell agrees. We don't want to hear that bull, says Chris Frazier. Well, too bad, Chris. You're going to hear that bull from Delanie Walker tonight on the Primetime Show. Before we get going, I want to ask you guys the question on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. Your Two Rivers Ford take on a Monday. In the comments on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch, as I mentioned, do you agree or disagree with Delanie Walker's statements about the Titans fan base? Let me know on all 4 of the streaming platforms, and we will get involved. We will get your commentary that way. We will also let you hear from Delanie Walker momentarily. But your Two Rivers Ford take, do you agree or disagree with Delanie Walker's statements about the Titans fan base? You'll hear those statements here in just a second. It's your Two Rivers Ford take that we do each and every Sunday through Thursday night on the A to Z Sports Primetime Show. It's got a lot of people bothered, understandably so. We have a lot of Titans fans in the audience. Play the sound clip, says Jukebox678. Well, I will do that for you, Juicebox, right after I tell you about the people who present the Two Rivers Ford take. That is, of course, Two Rivers Ford. So many great things happening at Two Rivers Ford that they have been doing since 1983. But more importantly, the best part about Two Rivers Ford is what doesn't change. That is the fact that they've been giving their customers the same honest upfront pricing since 1983 for nearly 40 years. So if you're in the market for a vehicle, a new or pre-owned vehicle, contact one of the non-commissioned salespeople at Two Rivers Ford and see what Ford has to offer. Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. All manner of great new vehicles as well, like the electric F-150, the Ford Maverick, the 2022 electric F-150 Lightning, the 2021 F-150, the Mustang Mach-E, also all electric, and the Ford Bronco. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Okay, so do you agree or disagree with Delanie Walker and the comments that he made on Sirius XM Radio? Steven Stafford says he didn't hear the comments. Well, allow me, Steven, to play for you Delanie Walker's thoughts on why he doesn't think he gets the attention that he deserves.
Delanie, I think the simple answer may be I just like to play, but I sit back and see a guy that's accomplished all that you have. Kirk mentioned the 3 Pro Bowlers, 3 Pro Bowls, 14 years. You played 1 game in 18. You played 7 in 19. You sat out last year. Well, what motivates you to want to play even more games going forward?
I want to win a Super Bowl, honestly. I feel like that helps you in your status as you retire in this game, and it's sad that that's something that you got to have to be recognized sometimes. And again, me being in Tennessee, I hate to say this, that hurts my value in any type of awards or accolades, because I did play in Tennessee, and you can look at some of the greats like Eddie George, Steve McNair, and them guys just not getting them coached yet, and it's because they didn't win a Super Bowl and they played in Tennessee. So I look at it, if I can win a Super Bowl, maybe that'll help me, and go from there.
You know, I find it so interesting, and I love the honesty. In what way will it help you, other than legacy, which I think we all understand? But Delanie, in fairness, outside of the quarterback position, Julio Jones may retire without a Super Bowl. We're not going to look at him any differently. You know what I mean? So in what way do you think it helps you? Why are you so motivated by just that?
Well, you say Julio, but he played in Atlanta. Look at Atlanta and their fan base. Look at the type of players that played in Atlanta, and look where they at. Now, when I say when you play in an organization like Nashville, it's because it's so small. Our fan base is not as great as some of these organizations that other players that play that been great in them organizations. They get them accolades. But when you play in Tennessee, you don't get primetime games. You don't get a lot of people seeing your games, so you don't get mentioned a lot. So sometimes you don't get brought up in these conversations. But when you have a Super Bowl ring, they bring you up in these conversations.
So that's Delanie Walker on Sirius XM NFL Radio, talking about why, he feels like he's been overlooked a lot of times when you talk about the great Titans or the great tight ends. and the great players at the position of tight end. Now he brings up, here's where I've been, uncertain about what exactly he was trying to say, because the words, Delanie Walker proclaiming himself to be a future Hall of Famer, that does not come across in that clip. What he does say, though, is he's talking about Steve McNair and Eddie George, how they don't have their coats yet, right? Their gold jackets specifically. And he thinks because, one, those two did not win a Super Bowl, and two, they played in Tennessee, that is why neither of those players are in the Hall of Fame. Now, that is something that, especially with McNair and probably more so with Eddie George, you can debate at great length. But with Delanie, he's off base about the Hall of Fame. If he is in fact talking about himself for Hall of Fame candidacy, we'll get to that later on in the show, though. Do you agree with what he said about, him being overlooked because he played in Tennessee? Joseph Marshall says he's absolutely right about it, and the small market in Tennessee. Your Two Rivers Ford take here on a Monday night. So there's no question that, even the Falcons are not a better fan base than the Tennessee Titans. The Falcons, if you want to call the Titans fair weather fan base, then you would have to say the exact same thing about Atlanta. Atlanta does not really support the Falcons because they have seen the Falcons fail a great many times, and there's a little bit of a malaise over the Falcons fan base and the organization. With the Titans, they've had a handful of bad years really since McNair was gone. They had a couple good years with Hasselbeck, but the rest of it until Marcus Mariota and the good years that they had with Marcus Mariota ultimately turning into Tannehill, it has been lean for Titans fans. So I understand there being, a little bit of apathy around the Titans prior to this recent success, this run of success that they've been on. We'll call it the last 5 years, heading into maybe 4 or 5 years for Tennessee. But there's no question that in Atlanta, there's simply more people, right? I would have to look up the numbers on the population of Atlanta, and I'll do that really quickly just to confirm, how much bigger it is than Nashville. Because I got to think it's somewhere close. The population, I just heard something crash downstairs, which makes me very nervous. The population of Atlanta, last they did a census, was north of 10 million, about 10.6 million in Atlanta, Georgia. The population of Nashville, I believe, is just over 1 million. And I think that is indeed the case. I will find out for you shortly in the latest census. Tennessee, based on the latest projections, this is taking Metro into account, not the larger Nashville area, but the census still says 694,000 up against 10.6 million. So there's no question that it is a markedly smaller market. So that I'm not disputing. There's just less Titans fans than there are, say, Falcons fans or Giants fans or Cowboys fans, right? Smaller city, smaller fan base, smaller market. That goes without saying. And it's not like Titans fans are exclusive to Nashville or Falcons fans are exclusive to Atlanta. There's fans, you have fans of different teams all over the country. That is true. But there is something to say about market size, nationally televised games. Delanie, I think he's got some good points to a degree. But where I think, and I'll play the sound clip again for you of Delanie Walker and see if you can tell where I might disagree with him. Because I agree with him to an extent about the Titans fan base and why he may have been overlooked. But his argument misses one critical point, and I'll tell you what that is right after we play this clip for you again so you can listen to what Delanie Walker had to say about the Titans, the fan base, and, why he thinks he isn't recognized more.
Delanie, I think the simple answer may be I just like to play, but I sit back and see a guy that's accomplished all that you have. Kirk mentioned the 3 Pro Bowls, 14 years. You played 1 game in 18. You played 7 in 19. You sat out last year. Well, what motivates you to want to play even more games going forward?
I want to win a Super Bowl, honestly. I feel like that helps you in your status as you retire in this game, and it's sad that that's something that you got to have to be recognized sometimes. And again, me being in Tennessee, I hate to say this, that hurts my value in any type of awards or accolades because I did play in Tennessee. And you can look at some of the greats like Eddie George, Steve McNair, and them guys just not getting them coached yet. And it's because they didn't win a Super Bowl and they played in Tennessee. So I look at it, if I can win a Super Bowl, maybe that'll help me and go from there.
You know, I find it so interesting, and I love the honesty. In what way will it help you, other than legacy, which I think we all understand? But Delanie, in fairness, you know, outside of the quarterback position, Julio Jones may retire without a Super Bowl. We're not going to look at him any differently. You know what I mean? So what? In what way do you think it helps you? Why are you so motivated by just that?
Well, you say Julio, but he played in Atlanta. Look at Atlanta and their fan base. Look at the type of players that played in Atlanta and look where they at. Now, when I say when you play in an organization like Nashville, it's because it's so small. Our fan base is not as great as some of these organizations that other players that play that been great in them organizations. They get them accolades. But when you play in Tennessee, not a lot. You don't get primetime games. You don't get a lot of people seeing your games, so you don't get mentioned a lot. So sometimes you don't get brought up in these conversations. But when you have a Super Bowl ring, they bring you up in these conversations.
So if you have a Super Bowl, they bring you up in these conversations. Now, Delanie Walker is talking about Hall of Fame conversations. Delanie Walker is not in the conversation for the Hall of Fame. And that's no slight on Delanie. There's a lot of dudes that are great players that aren't in the conversation for the Hall of Fame. Delanie's one of them. And we'll expand on that here in just a second. That's kitchen table talk. He should have just kept it to himself, says El Boogie 808. But here's my thing with Delanie. And I'll expand on what I mean, because I agree with him to an extent, right? I do not think, I think he's missing. I think he's a product of his own experience here, right? And that experience, has been much different, certainly over the last 3 years with Vrabel as the head coach as opposed to Mike Mularkey. Now, when you say that's kitchen table talk, he should have just kept it to himself. Here's the thing, though. I have always valued Delanie. And this is not the first time that Delanie said this kind of stuff. He was saying it when he was here. I remember I had Dawn Davenport, who's one of my teammates over at The Zone, who hosts 3HL. Dawn used to do the sidelines when she worked in local sports. Dawn used to do the sidelines for the Titans preseason game. She used to do a lot of the players' shows. She used to be in the locker room a lot more often. And she would talk to Delanie about this stuff. Delanie started fires when he was still here about saying that the Titans fans don't support their team enough. And that he was tired of seeing, I'm paraphrasing here, but that he was tired of seeing a lot of different opposing fan bases in the stadium that weren't Titans fans. So when you say he should have just kept it to himself, the best part about Delanie Walker is that he doesn't, is that he speaks with honesty. And that's why you liked a guy like Delanie Walker in the locker room, because he'd check your ass if you were underperforming. Remember, it was Vrabel's first year as the coach, and they were struggling. They were struggling with Marcus Mariota, and Delanie Walker said of the young guys, a lot of the young guys, and this at the time included A.J. Brown, a lot of these young guys need to get their heads right. They need to grind it out. They need to understand what this is, and that winning doesn't just come because you're a hugely talented athlete. These were Delanie Walker's, again, paraphrasing, but these were the kind of things that Delanie Walker would always say. He would always be forthright and honest about how he felt. That is so rare among athletes. It's why Delanie Walker would, garners headlines the way that he does, because he's willing to say things. So, I understand why it hurts the feelings of Titans fans. I understand, I saw, I think Josh, and I'll scroll down and read. I haven't read a lot of comments yet tonight, and I'll get more of them, I promise, because I want to make sure that we're getting you guys as involved as humanly possible in the show tonight. But I'm seeing a lot of F Delanie Walker and all this stuff. Well, I mean, you can't like Delanie Walker for being honest and open and a strong voice in the locker room when he's with your team, and then bash him for being the exact same thing when he's not with your team anymore, even if he's talking about your team. Because there are some hard truths in there. Again, I don't totally agree with Delanie, because I think, again, Delanie is missing the point. And I'll tell you what that point is right after I tell you about our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. What you do when you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app is you get to get in on all manner of great promotions in America's top-rated sportsbook. Speaking of America, our top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold. and DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for my viewers. That's 100-1 odds on an American athlete to stand on the podium and receive gold, silver, or bronze this week. All they have to do is medal. And all you have to do is download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code A2Z Sports when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. Just a medal, bronze, silver, or gold. With promo code A2Z Sports to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Tennessee only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. Promo code A2Z Sports in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So, Delanie, there's a lot of stuff that he's saying there and a lot of stuff that's probably hurtful to a fan base that has supported Delanie Walker. Here's the bigger point that Delanie misses. Delanie misses the point that in San Francisco, he was on a Super Bowl. I mean, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but he was on a team that played for a Super Bowl. Now, he was decidedly not the starting tight end there because Vernon Davis played for the 49ers at the time. They lost in that Super Bowl to the Baltimore Ravens. I think that was 2012. If I remember correctly, the last time Joe Flacco looked like a starting NFL quarterback, that was the Colin Kaepernick Super Bowl as well, and they were a tipped pass by Jimmy Smith away from winning that Super Bowl. But Delanie Walker was no kind of star in San Francisco. He had to come to Tennessee to become a star. He had to play for a bad team where he would receive a lot of targets, where he would receive a lot of attention, where he was able to show out and showcase his talents. If Delanie Walker had stayed a fringe tight end in San Francisco, or gone to another organization where he might not have had the starting opportunity and the target opportunity that he would have had here and did have here, then Delanie Walker would not even be having this conversation. We would not be speaking of Delanie Walker in the sense of he's probably the most important free agent signing in the history of this franchise, the best free agent signing in the history of this franchise. To be more specific, Tennessee afforded him this opportunity. There were not many other teams that seemed willing to take a chance on Delanie Walker, given how unproven he was at the time. They identified something in Delanie here in Tennessee, even though Rustin Webster was, by most accounts, not very good at his job. They pinpointed a player who could do more than he was currently doing with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, that Delanie Walker has a great belief in self, I don't fault him for that at all. In fact, I want that from professional athletes, even if it's the point to where it's not terribly grounded in reality, which Delanie Walker seems to, has a different experience than a lot of Titans players who have played under this regime. I'll expand on that more in just a second, but I want to continue to read your comments. Do you agree or disagree with Delanie Walker? Mason says, if the teams Delanie was on won more than 3 games, he would have been a bigger name. AJ and Henry are doing just fine. That being said, he was a stud and very underrated on a national level. That's true, but he played for losing teams more often than not. Dom Odell says, disagree. We made Delanie. We untapped his potential. Dom, speaking truth to power, the point that I've just made myself. We untapped his potential. He comes back and bashes us. If you're worthy of a jacket, you'll get one regardless of what market you play in. He's all cap. So, Dom, I do think it's tough because, the media core here in Tennessee, and I don't just say that because I'm here, but there's a lot more variety of media covering the Titans and a lot more people talking about the Titans than there were when Delanie Walker was in the crux of his career here. When the Titans started to stock up, Delanie's career was coming to an end. In fact, Vrabel's first year, there was no Delanie, right? He snapped his ankle clean in 2, basically, and was not available for the best times that the Titans had. He was the only talent we had on offense, says Jordan Miller. He brought highlight plays to Tennessee when we had nothing. Sad his time was cut short with us and his health. There's no question about that. And Delanie Walker, I'm not trying to diminish Delanie Walker. I just think he's missing the point about what it was that Tennessee provided to him that no other team, and I don't know, I wasn't covering the NFL at the time when Delanie Walker, his first time into free agency after leaving the 49ers. So I don't know what the market for Delanie was like. All I know is that it wasn't a terribly expensive contract that brought him to Tennessee, and something that, I think probably he could have gotten lesser opportunities for better teams, But the Titans needed a tight end, and the Titans needed a starting tight end. Delanie Walker got that opportunity here in Tennessee, and his numbers reflect that of being, the best offensive target. Scott Lanier, or Lanier, however I pronounce it, forgive me, Scott, says, disagree. I feel like he thinks he's better than anyone else. Granted, he was good for a while he was here. I think he wanted more attention than he got. I mean, sure he did. There's no question. I mean, he wasn't alone in thinking that way. I'm certain he's just the one who was most public about it. Again, you have to take Delanie Walker for what he is when he's speaking truth about your team in ways that you resonate with, and when he's speaking truth about things that don't make you feel as good. I think there's a little bit of both in this particular regard. Jake_SN on Twitter says, you said on radio today Titans are sub 50% vaxxed. This contradicts the Associated Press and Pro Football Talk's reporting. Elaborate. Yes, Jake, I did say that on the radio today, but if you listen closely to my words, because I did also see, in fact, somebody with the Titans sent me the reporting from the Associated Press today. If you listen back, and you can listen back to the radio show via the podcast, the Buck Rising Show, in your favorite podcast app. If you go back and listen to what I said that I had not checked up on it in a couple weeks, really, since we had broken from mandatory minicamp for the summer. At the time, the Titans were well under 50% vaccinated by players. The coaching staff well over 50% vaccinated. So I did make sure that I was clear on that point, Jake, to that end, because I had stated that they were under 50% vaxxed the last time that I checked up on it, but I did say that I had not checked up on it in several weeks. So maybe I should have clarified that, or maybe I should have waited until I had checked back, but that just happened to come up today with Don Davenport talking about SEC players and being under, I think there's 6 of the 14 SEC teams, Don said, that were meeting the 80% vaccinated threshold. And at that time, I said the last time that I had checked up on the Titans, they were under, as a player, as a roster, under 50% vaxxed. It sounds like they have at least cleared the 50% threshold based on the Associated Press and Pro Football Talk's reporting. So forgive me for not, I did make that clarification, but forgive me if I was not as clear on that as I should have been, Jake. Thank you for reminding me of that and allowing me the chance to elaborate, because I did have a couple people at the Titans text me about that today. Excuses. Come on, Delanie, says JEMC45 on Twitter. Alex Prasadio, forgive me, Alex, if I've mispronounced your last name. I love the Titans, but we can't even fill the stadium during winning seasons. I don't. Here's what I'll say about that, okay, Alec? Because I have never myself gone to a Titans game as a spectator. I've only gone as a paid media member, right? So I don't spend money to go to Titans games. I don't pay for parking. I have a very good parking spot at the stadium. I sit indoors. I sit in the air conditioning. I sit in a very comfortable chair. I have an entire media lounge behind me with all manner of food and beverages throughout the course of the afternoon or the evening that I'm covering the game. So I've never myself paid for the experience of going to an NFL game. But I understand, based on the prices, based on the hassle of parking, based on travel, based on, what the concession prices are in Nissan Stadium. I do understand that it costs a lot of money to be able to attend an NFL game, that it's not something necessarily that's affordable for everyone. Now, they have things to make it affordable, like the, what's it called? The Fireball Fast Pass, where I think it costs like $30 to attend 10 Titans games or something like that. And you don't get to pick your seats necessarily, and they'll move you all over the stadium. But there are value opportunities there. Now, that does not include parking. It does not include food and drink and all manner. And it does not include, multiple tickets, right? That's one ticket, I think, my understanding, in talking to some people in the business office with that, is it, so I'm not going to bash fans when the experience itself is not necessarily affordable for everyone. I don't have that perspective. I lack that perspective. Sometimes I think that hurts me when I talk to you guys about your favorite team, because we consume the Titans in different ways, right? You as fans and me as media. So, I stopped bashing people and stopped bashing Titans fans once I understood a little better about all of the hoops that you have to jump through to go to an NFL game. If they continue to have success, it won't be an issue. If they continue to win at a high level, people will continue to want to go, and that will be less of a problem. But certainly during these 9-7 seasons, and when the football itself has been not fun to watch outside of really 2019 on up, with Mariota, they were not great teams offensively. They were not fun to watch necessarily. I understand why Nissan Stadium isn't packed to the gills for the last couple of years. Now, again, if they continue on this trend, I think that there should be an expectation of fans to support their teams and make sure that opposing fan bases don't flood the stadium the way that we have seen the Chiefs and the Bills and many other fan bases come into town and do. We made Delanie, says Josh Johnson. In San Francisco, he was nothing. Exactly the point I just made. You're either Hall of Fame worthy or you're not, says JEMC. Has nothing to do with the fan base being small. Well, we'll talk about this Hall of Fame conversation here in just a second. Dylan Bruce, I think, will be the last comment that I take on this, and there are many comments. Forgive me if I haven't been able to get to all of you guys tonight. You're very active, and I appreciate that. Dylan says, I don't agree with him, but I'm not mad at him. He was that dude. He was my hero for the longest time. And he's that for a lot of guys, right? A lot of Titans fans, guys, girls, kids, adults, everything in between. Delanie Walker has been a bit of a superhero for this franchise because him and Jarrell were the best things that you guys had going for a long time. And certainly even when in lean years, they still performed at a high level. And I imagine the Titans fans will always be grateful to them for that. And you will always respect the time that both of those individuals spent here. But the honesty, I think he lacks a little bit of context, but I think there's a lot of things about his experience here in Tennessee that is different from the time that Mike Vrabel took over, where this is a winning football team and they win at a high level. Delanie Walker really wasn't a part of that outside of being on the sidelines for the 2019 run because he was not able to play. He struggled to come back from injury well into the 2019 season. That's why they're called the Tennessee Titans, not the Nashville Titans. Nashville doesn't carry the Titans fan base, and Dirk time is going back to the population that I cited. Listen, Dirk, I mean, you got the city of Memphis, the ESPN affiliate down there carrying the Cowboys because Memphis doesn't, Memphis proclaims that largely they don't care about the Tennessee Titans in the way that, Nashville really doesn't care about the Grizzlies. So, I do understand why you're saying that, but you have to consider that's not widespread the way that I think you're trying to make it widespread, even though I think the vast majority of the state supports the local NFL team. Jake, I've seen you make multiple comments, making the same comment multiple times. So I hope that that I did address that for you soon enough. Forgive me. I'm trying to keep up. You guys are really chiming in tonight. I appreciate that. Shrike says, here goes Buck bragging about his free games again. I mean, listen, I don't mean to do that. I just try to, and I know Shrike is giving me, he's just ribbing me there, but I just try to run it. I just try to give you guys my perspective because I know we have different perspectives. That's why I value your input because, we consume these games in a different way. Yuri says he chose to sign with the Titans. Nobody forced him. This is true. Again, he needed the opportunity. The Titans gave him that opportunity. This made a world of difference. It's for Delanie Walker. Puka says cooking ? Yeah, we'll get to the cooking segment here in just a second because I want to tell you guys about an experience I had today. Kenston Farmer says that's a lie. They just picked up the Titans this past week, 98-9 Memphis. Check with Rep Bryant. No, I'm talking about the ESPN affiliate, Kenston, not the Cumulus station. So 104.5 The Zone is a Cumulus station, and the sports station in Memphis is ESPN. Now, Kenston, I believe, lives in Memphis. So, Kenston, you would be able to tell me if the new Titans radio affiliate, I believe it's a talk radio station, not a sports radio station. I believe it's talk radio, and I know that's parsing things, but as opposed to like a full-time sports station, I believe the Titans are on. Now, that doesn't mean that that's a worse station. It just means that it's not a dedicated sports station. The dedicated sports station, according to my understanding, and I check with Rep Bryan, I work with Rep Bryan every day, Kenson. So, I'm not lying to you. I'm pointing out what I believe to be a fact. Now, if you live in Memphis and you can push back on that and say that there are other, and that the station that the Titans are on is a dedicated sports station, then I will happily admit that I'm wrong. But it was my understanding that I think it's 92.9 in Memphis, because Gary Parrish works there, if I remember correctly. Formerly had the Titans rights. Now they've switched to the Cowboys. And 98.9, I believe, is a talk station as opposed to a sports station. So hopefully, Kenston, thank you, Kenston. I appreciate you pointing that out. And because listen, I thank you for providing me that context, because I wasn't certain, but I was about 90% sure that was in fact the case, that they had gone from a sports talk station to a talk radio station. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in the minutia. El Boogie 808 says a cat doesn't equate to a trash panda, but it is what it is, I guess. That's a good one. Speaking of the latest trash panda to enter my home. But let us move on, and let's have this conversation about the Hall of Fame, because Delanie Walker, it sounds like, and again, I'll play you the clip one more time before we conclude tonight, about Delanie Walker and his Hall of Fame aspirations. The question, though, that I'm asking you guys is, in your opinion, why would Delanie Walker, and this is the way that I want to ask it, because I'm not going to ask you whether you think Delanie Walker is or isn't a Hall of Famer, because I think that would come back as a resounding no, and I would agree with you. It is a no. Delanie Walker is not a Hall of Fame tight end. But I want to know, in your opinion, why would Delanie Walker think that he is a Hall of Famer? And I think this may give us some better answers as opposed to giving you a yes or no question. Let me know in the comment section, why would Delanie Walker, in your opinion, think he's a Hall of Famer? Let me know in the comments on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. We will discuss at length together. Why would Delanie Walker think that he's a Hall of Famer? Let me know, and we'll talk about it together. While we discuss that, and while you get ready to give me your answers, I'll tell you about the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. Your dream address without the stress. And what the Ashton team also provides to you is the best intel in the city on the available properties, on how you can sell your home for more, on how you can win the buyer battle and take advantage of all of the great real estate that Nashville has to offer, and Middle Tennessee. The Ashton team has the best intel in Middle Tennessee because they live in Middle Tennessee, they work for Middle Tennesseans, and they are ensuring that Middle Tennessee is the best community humanly possible, because the Ashton team will make sure that they find the best value for Middle Tennesseans as humanly possible. Take advantage of this red-hot real estate market with the best in the business and with the intel that you know you can trust from the official real estate agent of the Tennessee Titans, GaryAshton.com. All right, so let's have this conversation about Delanie. Why would Delanie Walker think that he's a Hall of Famer? Because I didn't want to ask you guys, is he a Hall of Famer, yes or no? Because it would have been a resounding no, and I would have said no, and then we would have had no conversation. But I think it's a more interesting question to ask you guys why you think he thinks that he's a Hall of Famer. Again, for the last time this evening, I'll play for you the clip from SiriusXM NFL Radio, Delanie Walker talking about why, he doesn't get the recognition that he thinks he deserves.
Delanie, I think the simple answer may be, I just like to play, but I sit back and see a guy that's accomplished all that you have. Kirk mentioned the 3 Pro Bowls, 14 years. You played 1 game in 18. You played 7 in 19. You sat out last year. Well, what motivates you to want to play even more games going forward?
I want to win a Super Bowl, honestly. I feel like that helps you in your status as you retire in this game, and it's sad that that's something that you got to have to be recognized sometimes. And again, me being in Tennessee, I hate to say this, that hurts my value in any type of awards or accolades, because I did play in Tennessee, and you can look at some of the greats like Eddie George, Steve McNair. and them guys just not getting them coached yet, and it's because they didn't win a Super Bowl and they played in Tennessee. So I look at it, if I can win a Super Bowl, maybe that'll help me, and see if we can go from there.
You know, I find it so interesting, and I love the honesty. In what way will it help you, other than legacy, which I think we all understand? But Delanie, in fairness, you know, outside of the quarterback position, Julio Jones may retire without a Super Bowl. We're not going to look at him any differently. You know what I mean? So what? In what way do you think it helps you? Why are you so motivated by just that?
Well, you say Julio, but he played in Atlanta. Look at Atlanta and their fan base. Look at the type of players that played in Atlanta and look where they at. Now, when I say when you play in an organization like Nashville, it's because it's so small. Our fan base is not as great as some of these organizations that other players that play that been great in them organizations. They get them accolades. When you play in Tennessee, not a lot of you don't get primetime games. You don't get a lot of people seeing your games, so you don't get mentioned a lot. So sometimes you don't get brought up in these conversations. But when you have a Super Bowl ring, they bring you up in these conversations.
So that's Delanie, again, going on about, you know, why Steve McNair and Eddie George aren't in the Hall of Fame, why they don't have their coats, as he calls it, referencing the gold jackets that they give you once you go into the Hall of Fame. So the question is, why, in your opinion, would Delanie Walker think that he's a Hall of Famer if he is, in fact, alleging that he should go into the Hall of Fame? I looked up. Well, let me read some comments first before I give you some numbers that I went and looked up about, you know, guys who were in the Hall of Fame and a one Titans tight end who has a statistical whose career statistics mirror Delanie's a little bit. Kenston says Delanie's stats are borderline Hall of Fame level. He just didn't play in many impact big games. Now, Kenston, what I will tell you is they are not borderline Hall of Fame level. In fact, they're really not close to Hall of Fame level if we're talking about touchdowns, receptions, yards. And again, he was hurt by the fact that he did not play much in San Francisco, and he was used as a bit player in San Francisco before becoming the primary target here in Nashville. So, for example, just to work off Kenston's point, since I have those numbers in front of me, Delanie Walker's career stats right now: 504 receptions, 5,888 yards, 36 touchdowns, 11.7 yards per reception. Okay, so good numbers by any measure. Let me look at, you know, just for example, because he is a very famous commentator now, as well as a famous Super Bowl winner, 3-time Super Bowl winner, Shannon Sharpe. Okay, Shannon's got the rings. Shannon's got the All-Pros. Shannon's been to 8 Pro Bowls. Big deal. But he is a Hall of Famer because 815 receptions, almost double Delanie Walker's yardage total, 10,060 yards, 12.3 yards per reception, 62 total touchdowns is Shannon Sharpe. Tony Gonzalez, for example, another one, 1,325 receptions, 15,127 yards, 11.4 yards per reception, 111 touchdowns, almost doubled up Delanie's scoring output. Delanie Walker is not borderline anything. He's really not even close if you were looking at statistics, as Kenston points out. Now, those are two great Hall of Fame no-doubters, and both, in fact, Tony didn't win a Super Bowl. Tony did not win a Super Bowl, but he went to the Pro Bowl 14 times and was a 6-time All-Pro. Again, Delanie Walker, 3 Pro Bowls to his name. No All-Pros. Yeah, no All-Pros. No All-Pro selections. So Dirk of Time says, because he carried our offense for maybe 4 years, he was always the 3rd or 4th best fantasy option at tight end. Steve Haygood just comes for Delanie Walker's neck and says because he's self-centered and delusional. I don't think that's fair. I think he's just got confidence. And listen, you want your athletes to have that kind of confidence. It's how they perform at the levels that they do. But the numbers are not there. They're just not there. And that's, you know, a lack of self-awareness, as Johnny Jameson points out on YouTube. But to say that his numbers are borderline, his numbers aren't close even remotely at all. Remember, Delanie's first 7 years were as a backup tight end, Bucks. No, I'm well aware of that. But, you know, tough. I mean, honestly, Kenston, tough shit. Like, you can't get doubled up statistically. You can't not make an all-pro team. You can't he didn't play for a Super Bowl. He does not have the resume, whether he was a backup or not. Tough shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I have the utmost respect for Delanie Walker. I miss his presence in the locker room. I miss him as a quote for exactly this kind of reason, because Delanie Walker will say things and he will be honest about them in his opinion. Whether he is right or wrong, he will be steadfast in his opinion. But if he was a backup for the first handful of years, tough. Be better. Beat out the better tight end, Vernon Davis. You weren't better than Vernon Davis. Delanie Walker is probably, and I would have to look up Vernon's numbers. Vernon also, in fact, I'll do that right now just so I can cross-check them. But if you're not better than another tight end on your own team, how are you going to make the case that you are better than Hall of Fame players or guys who deserve Hall of Fame consideration? Let me pull up Vernon Davis's Pro Football Reference right now and run them up against Delanie's. Okay, so Delanie Walker, as we mentioned, 504 receptions, close to Vernon Davis, 583 receptions. The biggest difference is what Vernon Davis did with those receptions. 7,562 yards to Delanie Walker's 5,888. Yards per reception, Delanie Walker, 11.7. Vernon Davis, 13 yards per reception flat. 63 touchdowns for Vernon. Delanie, 36 touchdowns. Again, you're not even the best tight end on your own team, you can't talk to me about Hall of Fame or even close to that. Self-awareness is key. Damn, never mind, LOL, says Kenston. Kenston, I get what you're saying, because he was great here. Again, I'm not doing this to diminish Delanie. I'm not at all. But the argument is just not there. The argument for Delanie Walker, why he would think that he's a Hall of Famer, is because he has incredible self-confidence, incredible belief in self that is critical, absolutely critical to the success of any professional athlete. I don't fault Delanie Walker for that at all. But I can't look at the numbers and look at the lack of and I mean, even, how many times did Vernon Davis make the Pro Bowl? So Delanie Walker made one more Pro Bowl than Vernon Davis did. But Vernon Davis also has a Super Bowl on his career, on his resume, rather. Who did Vernon Davis win the Super Bowl with? Why am I blanking on who Vernon Davis won the Super Bowl with? The 49ers didn't win a Super Bowl while Vernon Davis was there. Why am I what team was Vernon Davis on that played for that won the Super Bowl? Now I'm curious. I'm going back and looking through. It wasn't sure as hell wasn't Washington. He was on the Broncos? He might have been on the 2015 Broncos that won the Super Bowl, which would make sense if I remember correctly. The 2015 Denver Broncos did win the Super Bowl. Okay, so Vernon Davis had a Super Bowl ring at the end of his career, won it with Peyton. Okay, thank you guys for pointing that out. I was like, wait, when the hell did Vernon Davis win a Super Bowl? But yeah, he was on that Broncos team at the end of his career. Donovan says he did not win a Super Bowl. Well, he did, because I just looked it up, Donovan. So you are incorrect in that regard. Jeremiah says, so he's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's played for the 49ers in 1. He won his second because he got traded. He got traded to the Broncos during that season, if I recall correctly. And that was the year that Peyton Manning, at the end of Peyton Manning, won the Super Bowl with Denver. Really, Von Miller won the Super Bowl with Denver, and Peyton Manning was just along for the ride. So, we've done, it's past 9 o'clock. I would, do you guys, here's what I'll ask you. Do you want to do the cooking topic tonight, or have you had enough show? I'm willing to go. I could go for a couple more hours if I needed to. But I had experience tonight about the first time that I've cooked a meal for myself in my home for the first time in a long time. We can do that, or we can call it a night. It's up to you guys. I will pose it to the people. Let me know on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch if you would like to have this conversation about about when's the last time, what's the longest you've gone with making a meal for yourself. Okay, so I'm getting, let's go. Let's do it. All right, so the question that I'm going to pose to you is, What is the longest you have gone without cooking at home? This is not a sports-related question, but I do think it's going to result in some funny subject matter. Let me know in the comments on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. What is the longest that you have gone without cooking at home? In the comments section on the A to Z Sports Primetime Show. While you guys do that, I will tell you about our friends at Brymak Mechanical, BRYMAK, Brymak.com. Satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. They will put you in a position to be in your comfort zone this summer. They will take care of you commercially. They will take care of you residentially. They have 3 locations in Middle Tennessee and in Kentucky, surveying and providing service to a wide area, a wide service area, a wide range. I don't know why I wanted to say a wide array, which is a hard phrase to say. But anyway, Brymak Mechanical, BRYMAK, Brymak.com. They're the best. All right. What's the longest you've gone without cooking a meal for yourself at home? Because I did for the first time today in a long time. And I'm about to tell you something that is probably a great deal of shame. So, what the hell you burn up, Buck, says Dom Odell. No, I made the food. Did Lucifer help, says Puka. Yeah, Lucifer, the newest of the trash pandas that has found its way into my home. So James Harrison says 2 years. James Harrison is going to, college counts, Johnny Jameson. You are not allowed to use the microwave, Jeremiah McNeese. That's correct. 2 years without cooking a meal for yourself is something that James Harrison is alleging. That's probably going to be the leader in the clubhouse because that's a long-ass time. College counts. Yes, indeed. Mark Dalton says maybe a week tops. Puka says a month when I was sick in 2017. Over a year, says Jeremiah McNeese. Can I join show to explain? LOL, shoot or shoot. What do you mean? Can you join? Oh, can you join this show? No. No, James, you cannot. We don't do guests on the primetime show. Sorry, buddy. That's not the way that listen, I do callers on the radio show. You guys can comment on the show. But unfortunately for the people, this is not a guest appearance show. So you cannot join the show, James. But I appreciate you shooting your shot. Privilege is about to show out here, says Donovan. Yeah, I'm about to show some severe privilege here in a second. Kenston says 7-month Navy deployment had your boy struggling. Man, I can't imagine what it's like being deployed on military service. Jeremiah McNeese is currently 8 weeks. Let's see. What else? A lot of comments on this. This is funny. Let's have a segment on chances that McNair and George ever get that coat, says Joe Edwards. Yeah, we can do that one night, Joe. Maybe we'll do that Hall of Fame week. I think that'd be a good topic. In fact, I'm going to write that down. In fact, Producer Reed, if you would do me a solid and write that down, text it to me so I can put it in my notes later. Chris Reynolds says 1 year, my ass was on a Navy ship in the Persian Gulf. A lot of people who have had military service in the primetime show tonight. Thank you guys. That's really cool to hear. Donovan says, we don't want to hear you, James. Make your own show. That's not nice. Listen, James is the only one to ever ask. Nobody's ever asked me before. But, oh, look at this. James says, I have one. 8 more than 92 podcasts. Wait, 8 more than 92 podcasts? Oh, that's the name of the podcast? Check me out on all major podcast platforms. All right, James, do your thing. We listen, I don't mind giving you a shout out. But if you want to listen to James, you can seek out his podcast. 3 months, and I'm not going. My wife does most of the cooking, and I'll clean, says Philan. We are single and have no life, says Jeremiah McNeese. Well, I will tell you, I'm not single, and my girlfriend doesn't live with me. She has her own apartment, and I own a home. But so today for lunch is the first time that I've made a meal for myself that I've cooked in my house. And this is actually, here is a damning indictment. Here is a damning indictment. I have owned my home for 2 years. I have never until today made a meal in my new house. Today was the first time that I used my oven and my range. Or the knife set that I was given for when I moved into the house, or the cutting board that I was given as a present. So, if it hasn't been 2 years, the last time that I think I made a meal for myself was 3 years ago. 3 years ago is the last time that I made a meal using my own hands, kitchen utensils, things of this nature. What did you do before COVID? Eat out, says Puka? Yes. I would always get carry out, or I would, hit the drive-through on the way home. During COVID, I gained a lot of weight that I'm working on losing right now. I'm probably close to 230 pounds right now, which is pretty heavy, but I'm 6'2", so it spreads out a little bit. The goal, and I have a bet with Will Compton, as a matter of fact, that I can get under 200 pounds by the time that football season gets here. And that's why I started cooking, because it's so much healthier for you. And it turns out a hell of a lot more cost expensive than Uber Eats, getting my every meal delivered the way that I have for the past, year and a half, basically during COVID. And then with carry out even pre-pandemic. So 3 years since the last time that I made a meal for myself. Brad Lipford says, "What the F, Buck?" Yeah, that's correct. Chill Mode says, "Buck racking up those DoorDash points." There's no question about it. Derickler says, "Did you already pay off your house, Buck?" No, I have not. It's 2 years. I have not paid off my home. Because I think I'm on a 30-year mortgage? Yeah, that sounds right. So no, sure as hell have not paid off my home, but I did put down a pretty substantial deposit to make it a lot easier to pay off my home. Shame, better get Amanda before before football season starts. I don't know who Amanda is, Carmen, but I do have a meal service now that delivers pre-made healthy meals to me, so I don't have to worry about cooking. Jordan Miller's Buck walks into his house, sees his kitchen, and thinks, "I love my decorations." LML. They'll look at my clean stove. Yeah, I have people that come and clean my house every Friday. A maid service that I use, and they come every Friday. They probably go in the kitchen once a month, because I just don't use my kitchen. So there's nothing that needs to be cleaned. All right, I'm going to listen to the DB one. My bad for being rude, says Donovan Remain. I'm not sure what we're talking about there. Getting old, Buck. Can't be doing that anymore, said Johnny Jameson. I know it. That's what I said. You said you own it. That's why I asked, says directly. Oh, well, I mean, no, I guess, but I pay my mortgage on my home. So I think that when I sign my life, I guess technically the bank owns any of our homes who sign a long-term mortgage. So I guess I cannot say that I completely own my home, because I still pay a mortgage. So that is something that is important to clarify, I guess, if Derickler is that bent out of shape about it. But, I would say everybody pays a mortgage. Get the hell over it. Do you carry out from ethnic places? More veggies, healthier. Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Jordan Miller just laughs at me. Good job on your deposit. Please clean your prison wallet, says Jeremiah McNeese. You need to let us meet Dara, says Brad Lipford. Let her be the first on-air guest. Well, a lot of the people. So we did a listener giveaway for the radio show, and I took about 20 people who listened to the radio show to a Nashville SC game. They gave us a VIP night. We got to sit in the club level. We had a great drinks and dinner at Edley's before, so they were very kind to us to allow us to do that with 20 listeners to the radio show. So maybe we'll have to do something like that for the A to Z audience. And Dara came with me, so a lot of the radio show listeners got to come with me to the soccer game and met Dara and my friend Josh Black, who's a comedian in town. Puka says, please do one in the fall. Probably not, but this is probably just a summer thing for me because of football season. I can't. I have 6 weeks with no football, and that is the time when we would do things like that. But so no fall listener events for me, I'm afraid, because football season is about to consume my entire life in, a little over a week when the Titans report back for training camp. Double up those payments, Buck, says Joe Edwards. I mean, I could with all the money that I'm going to save if I don't do carry out every night anymore, Joe. you're probably right. I could pay off my mortgage in 15 if I just quit using Uber Eats. But it is an extremely unhealthy habit. When are we going to start talking about training camps, Donovan? We'll talk about it next week. We'll talk about it next week since training camp will begin. This week is SEC Media Day, so we'll talk a lot about the Vols tomorrow. Jimmy Allen says, Buck, I noticed your hair hasn't came back since you was bald. Jimmy, what the hell are you talking about? I just get a really, really close fade. I've got all of my hair. What the hell are you? What do you mean? My hair, by the way, my hair looks great today. Shout out my barber, DeMarcus Drumright, because he gets me with that basically skin level fade. So I got more hair than I know what to do with, buddy. I'm Egyptian. That's all I do. That and tan. My hair, not even a damn, I mean, you can't see the back of my head. There's no way for me to turn my head. But I don't even have a bald spot, baby. Heading into my late 20s, we're looking good. We're feeling great. No products, no nothing. In fact, I don't even put hair product anymore. It just stays like this. All right, let's wrap up the show. Thank you guys, as always, for your participation. Radio show tomorrow will be a hell of a lot. Of fun tomorrow. We will hear from Vols head coach Josh Heupel, his first SEC Media Days experience. We will have a great time doing that. Former Vols quarterback Jonathan Crompton will be on the radio show, and we hope that you will listen then to 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. If you haven't sent me Music City mailbag questions, now is the last opportunity. In my DMs on Instagram at Buck Rising, just as you see below, REISING. So do that, because I'm going to finish the 615 Sessions podcast after we wrap up primetime tonight. I'm going to write some articles. I'm going to prep for the radio show because it's 9:17 Central Time. But damn it, I'm not tired yet. See y'all tomorrow.
No!